Outside the palace, a horde of demons pushes towards the mountain where Yulei is. Venerable Han and I invites Han Li and a few others to a 5-course Han banquet to assist his breakthrough to spirit severing. He wishes to overcome this crisis. In order to break through the bottleneck and to increase his chances of success, he must enter the Void Spirit Hall to cultivate. Only by using the extremely cold Che within the hall can he succeed. Through the combined efforts of the cultivators, the great gates of the Void Spirit Hall were finally opened. This time, breaking through the bottleneck, at the earliest, will take 3 to 5 days. At the latest, it will take over a month. If those demonic beasts attack the palace during this period, you are to handle it according to the original plan. If there are any other unexpected events, and I have not come out after 2 months, you are to proceed with the backup plan. Yes, Great Elder. All the cultivators had solemn expressions. They stood up and replied, "Let's go." Venerable Han and I then turned around. With a flick of his elegant robe, a fist-sized, pure white formation disc appeared in his hand. Then, holding this magical artifact in one hand, he led the way toward the stone gate. Han Li and the other 3 naturally followed closely behind. Upon entering the stone gate, Venerable Han and I formed a hand seal with one hand, and after casting an incantation on the formation disc in his hand, the wide-open gate instantly closed shut with a resounding boom. Runes of various colors reappeared, and a spiritual light flickered. Seeing this, Elder Yu and the gray-robed monk both showed a hint of surprise in their eyes. Don't worry, fellow Taoists. Although this Void Spirit Hall is rather difficult to open from the outside, when opening it from the inside, it is an effortless task. I have temporarily closed it to prevent anyone from coming in and disturbing us. Venerable Han and I explained. Hearing this, Elder Yu and the other man naturally had no objections. Han Li's expression was indifferent, as if he didn't care about this at all. The group walked out from the Scepter of Giving and arrived before a series of ice pillars. A white, golden light flickered continuously, creating a dazzling and shocking sight. There were a total of 1,008 of these 10,000-year profound ice pillars. All of them had been refined by ancient cultivators. This was a famous formation from ancient times, the Bingpo Hanlai entrance formation. If one enters this formation without the corresponding magical artifact, I'm afraid in an instant, they will be frozen by the profound cold Che within the formation, permanently sealed within the ice. The cold wind we felt outside earlier was simply the icy aura generated by this formation, after being sealed for over 1,000 years. Even if all 5 of us possess the eyes of extreme cold, whether or not we can survive in this formation is still uncertain. Venerable Han Li reminded them calmly. Hearing this, Old Yu and the monk glanced at the profound ice pillars before them a few times, their faces showing expressions of doubt. Hey, rest assured, fellow cultivator Han Li, we have no interest in truly experiencing the power of this formation. Han Li let out a soft laugh. Hearing this, Venerable Han Li chuckled heartily. Then, with the formation plate in his hand, he waved it towards the endless sea of ice pillars before them. Instantly, a milky white ray of light shot out from the formation plate. Wherever it passed, the white light on the ice pillars flickered. They shimmered one after another like phantoms, opening up a path several meters wide. The white light from the formation plate was constant. Venerable Han Li walked in, holding the plate in one hand. The rest of the group followed closely behind, not daring to fall behind. Han Li walked at the very back, his gaze occasionally sweeping across the surroundings. The profound ice pillars, one after another, were astonishingly thick. It would take almost a people to wrap their arms around one. The surface of each ice pillar appeared exceptionally smooth, but, as he gazed intently, he could faintly see various runes churning within the ice pillars. But when he tried to take a closer look, the runes would vanish without a trace. The temple was truly strange. Looking up, at a height of 50 to 60 jong, it was all thick, milky white mist. The upper halves of the ice pillars were completely submerged in it, making it impossible to see them in their entirety. But one thing was certain. These ice pillars contained a terrifyingly cold power. Even from a distance of several jong, he could still feel the threads of extreme cold they emanated. Although it couldn't compare to the extreme cold flame, this level of chill was absolutely not something ordinary cold energy could match. No wonder Master Hanley was so confident. As he pondered this, the group had already walked several hundred jong, and yet, these ice pillars seemed endless, always lined up tightly on both sides. It was truly hard to believe they were just a trivial matter. The sheer scale of the temple was astounding. This sight left the others secretly astonished as well. After the group had walked for about the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, the view ahead finally opened up. They had walked out of the forest of ice pillars. Before them appeared a high platform resembling an altar. It was over 20 zhang high, and seemed to be over 100 zhang wide. The entire platform was as white as jade, and was enveloped in a layer of pale blue light. On either side, there was a pale golden side door, each 7 to 8 zhang high. Their surfaces were crisscrossed with several ancient talismans. They were sealed, as if leading to some other place. Seeing this barrier of light, Master Hainai showed a look of relief on his face. He put away the formation plate in his hand, and strode forward to the front of the altar. He raised both his hands, and a blue light flashed. The cyan blue ice flame was released. In an instant, it transformed into a layer, enveloping his palms. With a flick of his 5 fingers, his hands pressed directly onto the light barrier. Instantly, the blue leaves and the light barrier intertwined and flickered. All the light nodes on the entire altar trembled slightly. Then, its entire body began to glow with a layer of dazzling light, as if it had transformed into a tangible object. Following that, with a crisp crack, the entire light barrier was like a piece of crystal. With Venerable Han Li's hands as the center, it shattered inch by inch. In the blink of an eye, it vanished into nothing. Without any hesitation, Venerable Han Li's figure flickered, remaining standing on the altar. Han Li and the others also transformed into streaks of escaping light, appearing beside Venerable Han Li. But at this moment, Venerable Han Li had his hands clasped behind his back, looking down and constantly examining the ground below. Han Li's gaze followed his. Only then did he discover that in the center of the altar, there was a strange magic formation imprinted on it. It was over 20 zhang in size, but in its center was a cauldron-shaped pattern. The style was unmistakable, exactly the same as the void heaven cauldron inside his body. His expression changed slightly, but he immediately acted as if nothing was wrong. Fellow Taoist Han, have you seen a similar formation before? Venerable Han Li, whether intentionally or not, let his gaze sweep across Han Li's face. Although Han Li's expression immediately returned to normal, his earlier unusual reaction was still caught in the other's eyes. He opened his mouth and asked directly, seeing the turmoil in Han Li's heart. But he calmly replied, in a certain ancient immortal's cave I've been to before, I saw something similar, but on closer inspection, they are still different. It was just a momentary illusion. Is that so? Venerable Han Li gave a faint smile, the corner of his mouth twitching slightly. It was unclear if he truly believed Han Li's words, as he didn't press the matter any further. Instead, he flicked his elegant robe. That small cauldron, emitting a chilling blue ice flame, flew out from within his sleeve. After circling once, it hovered in the center of the formation. He couldn't help but purse his lips, unconsciously holding his breath. The others watched, not daring to blink. With one hand, he formed a flower-pinching mudra. With the other, he flicked it towards the small cauldron through the air. With a muffled bang, the small cauldron's volume rapidly expanded. Then, with another whoosh, fierce blue ice flames erupted from within the cauldron. In an instant, they covered every inch of the cauldron's surface. The giant cauldron from before had reappeared. At this moment, Bai Mengshen, who was standing to the side, and the green-robed middle-aged man also took a step forward, raising a single hand. They each unleashed a stream of white flames and a stream of black flames, directing them to opposite sides of the formation on the ground. Immediately, a loud rumbling sound echoed. Spiritual light flashed from all over the formation. It had been activated by these two streams of liquid fire. The cauldron pattern in the center began to glow with an azure light. Then, the light slowly floated upwards, actually materializing into a cauldron made of blue light. The original giant cauldron hovering above the formation, as soon as the cauldron of light had fully emerged, immediately descended under Han Li's control. The blue light from both flared violently. In an instant, they merged into one. Then, with another tremendous bang, the giant cauldron landed steadily in the center of the formation. From Han Li's mouth, a strange incantation suddenly sounded. The azure ice flames immediately erupted like a volcano, surging furiously from the giant cauldron. In the blink of an eye, it covered the entire formation. The moment the formation made contact with these azure flames, it erupted with a dazzling, shimmering light. Following that, the entire altar began to tremble violently, and the formation, with the giant cauldron at its center, slowly began to crack open. The fissure grew larger and wider, causing Han Li and the others to leap into the air. Looking down with fixed gazes, they saw the giant cauldron that was spouting blue flames. It was now completely suspended in its original position, and within the fissure beneath it, a faint, milky white light emanated from it, seeming to be brightly lit inside. This here is the greatest hidden treasure in all of Xylandian, the profound jade cave. Although this cave is not large, the profound jade inside it has existed since ancient times. An ancient cultivator used their immense power to take an entire vein of profound jade ore and forcibly refine it into this very cave. While 10,000-year profound jade and 10,000-year profound ice may differ by only a single word, the distinction between them is something I'm sure you fellow Taoists are aware of. And outside of this palace, even if you were to scour the entire Northern Empire, you'd hardly find more than a few pieces of 10,000-year profound jade. The adept stared at the crack on the altar and said with a hint of pride on his face, the middle-aged man in green robes, and by mention also revealed a hint of excitement. To be honest, if you, Senior, hadn't told us about the profound jade cave beforehand, we would have truly found it hard to believe that you possess such a hidden treasure. You don't need much of this 10,000-year profound jade. Just a fist-sized piece incorporated into a magic treasure can immediately grant it a chilling divine ability, allowing it to release an astonishing cold chi that can wound enemies unseen. It's on a level that a material like profound ice could never compare to. The monk in the turtle-patterned robe, looking at the crack, remarked with deep emotion. Olju looked at the crack, his own eyes sparkling brightly. Han Li, however, used a finger hidden in his sleeve to stroke the smooth surface of a small, golden object, simply smiling without saying a word. I have already told junior sister Bai and junior brother Aang, regardless of whether you three can help me break through my spirit transformation bottleneck, I will gift each of you fellow Taoists a piece of 10,000-year profound jade. As a token of my sincerity, the adept, taking in the expressions of Han Li's group of three, suddenly said with a faint smile. Someone asked, Senior Taoist, your words, are they really true? Even someone as cold and arrogant as Olju couldn't help but be overjoyed at these words. As the great elder of the ZG sect, I can still make this call, Master Panlin said, swaying his head. At this, even the gray-robed monk's face lit up with joy. After all, 10,000-year black jade is a material that has all but vanished from the outside world. It's the kind of thing that's priceless but has no market. Even if you have the spirit stones, there's nowhere to buy it, and if one could obtain it and incorporate it into their own life-bound artifact, it would naturally increase the artifact's power by a good 20% out of thin air. Hearing Master Panlin's words, Han Li couldn't help but admire him inwardly for this master's grand gesture. However, with such a generous reward, the three of them would probably feel too obligated not to give it their all. Alright, let's enter the Zhuanlu cave now. The cold chi in this Zhuanlu cave is exceptionally potent. Fellow Taoists, as soon as you enter, you must use the extreme cold flame to protect yourselves. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't be able to withstand it. Fortunately, there's a spot inside the cave, a place specially carved out, that can resist the erosion of the black jade's cold chi. We can use it to meditate and recover our magic power. Otherwise, even I wouldn't be able to stay inside for long, Master Panlin reminded them. Then, the master opened his mouth, and a brilliant blue fireball shot out from it, transforming into a large blue bird that flew straight overhead. After circling for a moment, it swooped down with a flap of its wings, plunging right into the master's body. Instantly, with a clear cry, the phantom of a large bird appeared behind Master Panlin and vanished in a flash. But a layer of blue ice flame erupted, enveloping him completely. He formed a hand seal, and with a slight movement of his body, he floated down into the fissure. Bai Mengshen, Olju, and the others also cast their spells one after another, and once again released his cold energy. Flying towards the fissure, Han Li, however, frowned. He glanced left and right at the pale golden side doors, then looked at the giant cauldron floating above the fissure. He was a bit hesitant, but then he suddenly remembered something. With a faint smile, he followed, protected by a layer of the violet luo flame. As he flew into the fissure, a layer of milky white, cold light immediately swept towards him. The moment it made contact with Han Li's purple flame, it produced a strange sizzling sound. The two seemed to be as incompatible as fire and water, causing the purple flame to flicker and waver violently. Han Li didn't have a chance to look around. He first rubbed his hands together and released another surge of the violet luo flame to reinforce his barrier. Only then did his protective flame stabilize again. It was only then that he had a moment to look around. At the so-called Zhuanyu cave nearby, it was actually just an underground cavern, except this cavern was unexpectedly formed from a vein of Zhuanyu ore, a rare sight in the world. This wondrous material was many times colder than 10,000-year mystic ice. Even a piece the size of a grain of rice emitted a milky white glow from the cavern walls, and the further down he went, the denser this cold light became. The sound of it hitting his purple flame gradually became as dense as rain hitting banana leaves. Amidst the quiet, he faintly felt that something was wrong. He looked at the people below him. It seemed no one had noticed him for the time being. Without a second thought, he reached out into the void towards these chilling gleams. Relying on his powerful magic, he forcefully sucked a wisp of the cold light into his hand. He wrapped it in his purple flame and examined it. It seemed to be just ordinary cold energy, with nothing special about it. But Han Li's brow furrowed. He suddenly infused spiritual power into his pupils. As a result, after the misty light flashed in his eyes, a look of surprise appeared on his face. These milky white glimmers, right under his clear gaze, were taking on a tangible, thread-like form, and, wrapped in a purple mist, they pulsed erratically, as if they were alive. They were completely unafraid of the harshness of the purple apex flame. The two simply couldn't merge. What is this? It seems like spiritual cold energy, but it doesn't seem quite right. Its unique resilience was hard to describe, and this was just the cold energy attacking on its own. If it could be controlled by someone, and concentrated to attack a single point, I'm afraid even my purple apex flame wouldn't be able to withstand it. As the thoughts raced through his mind, he suddenly remembered something. He suddenly rubbed his hands together again quickly. This time, within the purple flame on his hands, a wisp of crimson red actually appeared. This different colored flame, the moment it made contact with the milky white glimmer, instantly absorbed the glimmer. They merged as perfectly as milk and water. Seeing this, a flash of emotion crossed his face. He was overjoyed. The legendary true lunar fire truly lives up to its reputation as one of the three great true spirit fires, although it's only a single wisp for now, and its power is far less than the purple apex flame. Its ability to absorb and integrate is unbelievably powerful. Back when he first refined this wisp of true lunar fire, he had also tried taking a bit of the purple apex flame and temporarily merging it. It worked without any issues. Of course, to truly convert it completely into true lunar fire, the amount of time required could not be accomplished in a mere 10+ years. Otherwise, Han Li would have really wanted to take his purple apex flame and convert all of it. After all, this wisp of true fire of Supreme Yin already possessed a sliver of spirituality, and was clearly a higher form of existence than the frost flame. Now, seeing that this wisp of true fire could suppress the cold light in the Zhuanling cave, Han Li felt a sense of relief. Immediately, a thought came to his mind. After a moment of consideration, he suddenly put his hands behind his back, and with a flick of his finger, this wisp of crimson flame shot out in a flash. In an instant, it vanished into the nearby cold light without a trace. Almost at the exact moment Han Li made this move, the middle-aged man in green robes below seemed to have sensed something. He silently raised his hand, his gaze fixed on Han Li, a golden glint flashing in his eyes. Han Li's heart sank, but his expression remained unchanged. He asked nonchalantly, "Fellow Taoist, is something the matter?" The middle-aged man in green robes carefully sized up Han Li and the cave walls on both sides, but found nothing out of the ordinary. "It's nothing," he said. "I was just checking to see if you had followed. Speaking of which, having one's divine sense so restricted in this hall of ethereal spirits, I'm really not quite used to it." This green-robed man, with the surname Ryang, was well aware that Han Li's divine abilities were extraordinary. So, even though he was suspicious, he didn't press the matter. Instead, he answered with great politeness, not daring to show the slightest disrespect. "Heh, how could I not follow? However, the cold energy in this Zhuanling cave, it does seem a bit strange." Han Li lowered his gaze, looking at the constantly swirling, milky white cold light below, and said faintly, "This Zhuanling cave is a place that has existed since ancient times. Over such a long period, it's possible that this cold energy has undergone some subtle changes, model. Otherwise, this cold energy wouldn't be so bizarre." The clinging black ice flame of the Green Mountain, under the assault of this cold chat, it also let out a series of crackling sounds, which made him look a little surprised and uncertain. He gave a slight, tearful smile. Just as he was about to say something, His expression suddenly shifted as he let out a soft sound of surprise. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed as he looked down. He saw that in just that short time, the group had already reached the bottom of the cavern. Below them was an area that looked like a field of rubble, a good few hundred yards wide. At the edge of one corner of the rubble field stood a fiery red stone house. On the surrounding cave walls, there were several openings that didn't seem to belong to this particular cave. The mysterious Che here, and the cold Che, were clearly several times denser than above. And in the center of the rubble field, atop a massive, natural stone pillar, the milky white cold Che had gathered, and actually formed a massive sphere of light. It was several yards in diameter, rolling erratically on top of the giant rock. It shimmered and glowed. Hanli focused his gaze, trying to get a better look. That's when he noticed that the profound jade exposed on the surface of this entire giant rock was all about the size of a thumb, and shimmered with spiritual light. It was clearly of a much higher quality than the loose ore found at the entrance. The two couldn't even be compared. Suppressing the shock in his heart, Hanli followed the others and landed on the ground. As soon as Taoist Han landed, his eyes lit up as he stared at the sphere of light on the giant rock. A look of delight appeared on his face. "Ha ha, excellent. I was just worrying about how to gather the cold Che in this cave. I never thought there'd be a natural convergence point for the cold Che right here. This will save us a great deal of effort." Taoist Han suddenly let out a loud laugh. Then, he suddenly raised a hand. A blue ice cone shot out from his hand. It hit the milky white ball of light perfectly. Poochie. The moment the two collided, they actually made a strange sound of metal clashing. Then, the ice cone began to shatter inch by inch from its tip, turning into spakes of cold light that vanished from the air. Not bad. Not bad. Seeing this, Adept Hanli's face was all smiles, and he seemed to be even more pleased. "By the way, fellow Taoists, do you see that stone house? That is a residence built from sun gold stone. It is also the only place that is not afraid of the profound jade's cold Che erosion. We can go there to rest for a bit first, and while we're at it, I can explain to all of you the major taboos to be aware of in this profound jade cave. Otherwise, you might bring great trouble upon yourselves." "Great trouble? Fellow Taoist Hanli, what do you mean by that?" Hearing this, Olju tapped his staff and asked, "It's simple. In the profound jade cave, besides the cold Che, there are some things you still need to pay attention to. For example, these 10,000-year profound jades. They may seem like they can be easily taken, but in reality, every single piece here was treated by ancient cultivators back then. Using some unknown great divine power, they were fused with the entire ore vein and forged into one. Coupled with so many years of being steeped in the cave's cold, Che, they have all become a completely solid whole. Even if you have the sharpest of treasures, it's impossible to remove them. Otherwise, with so much profound jade here, why would I have left it here unused all this time? If I could take it all out and refine it into magic treasures, my power could, in a single night, become no less than that of the Tai sect or the Heavenly Demon sect. I wouldn't be far behind them at all." The middle-aged man in the green robe said with a look of regret. "These profound jades can't be removed." Old Yu's brow furrowed, a look of disbelief on his face. "Madam Luo, if you have any doubts, you can just test it yourself. Then you'll know that what Yang Shidi said was true." Senior Hanli also said with a smile, "Oh, if that's truly the case, then this old woman would indeed like to give it a try." The old woman's full head of red hair quivered. Suddenly, she lifted the cane in her hand, aiming at a certain fava bean-sized piece of mysterious jade on the messy rocks before her. She pointed, and a ray of yellow light shot out from the tip of the cane. With a flash, it struck the mysterious jade. With a bang, a light flashed upon the piece of mysterious jade, and then it was as if nothing had happened. The old woman's expression changed slightly, but her expression immediately darkened, and a murderous aura appeared on her face. Her embroidered robe suddenly shook, and a small, ancient-looking cyan hammer appeared in her hand. With a slight shake, she raised her hand and threw it. The hammer turned into a streak of cyan lightning and shot out. With a great roar, the cyan lightning made contact with the mysterious jade and exploded. The light of the mysterious jade flickered. Then it suddenly turned into a cloud of white powder, scattering in the wind. Witnessing this, the old woman was left dumbfounded. "Taoist friend Luo, no need to be surprised. Even if you use an even more powerful treasure, these mysterious jades will only be destroyed. It's impossible to have them completely retrieved intact." Senior Hanli chuckled lightly. The old woman's expression was a bit grim, but she could only remain silent. At this moment, the gray-robed monk to the side suddenly spoke up. Taoist friend Han Li, if that is the case, your sect must not have much of this mysterious jade. And yet, you were so generous towards us just now. This truly puzzles this humble monk. Ha ha, Master Moju, you're overthinking it. Although my sect is unable to mine the mysterious jade in this cave in large quantities, taking out a small amount, our little Jigong sect still has a few tricks up its sleeve. Junior sister Bai, please retrieve a piece for our fellow Taoists to see. Hearing the monk's words, the esteemed Han Li was first taken aback, but she immediately broke into a great laugh, and gave an order to Bai Mengshen. Hearing this, the woman in white nodded faintly in acknowledgement. She slapped her storage pouch with one hand. A small white bottle appeared in her palm. Then, under everyone's watchful eyes, Bai Mengshen walked up to the pile of rubble. She skillfully opened the bottle cap. A white light flashed from her hand. Using her spiritual power, she forced out a single drop from the bottle, a droplet as black as ink. This droplet emitted a faint gray aura. It flew towards another piece of profound jade in the stone pile. Han Li, who had been composed all this time, upon seeing that droplet, his expression changed. He quickly regained his composure, but the trace of shock revealed in his pupils could not be completely concealed. At that moment, everyone else was focused on the scene before them, so no one noticed Han Li's unusual reaction. As soon as the drop made contact with the profound jade, it vanished in a flash, like a clay ox sinking into the sea. The profound jade was instantly covered in a layer of gray energy. Immediately after, it made a crisp sound, and actually detached itself from the larger rock. Bai Mengshen swiftly caught it in her hand. Olju and the monk showed expressions of astonishment. Surprise also flashed in Han Li's eyes. The esteemed Han Li, however, chuckled and began to explain. Many years ago, the founding ancestor of my sect left behind a treasure. It can automatically gather the nether phosphorus yin-che of the earth. It takes 10 years to condense into a single drop. This nether water specializes in corroding stone and melting metal. Its power is truly wondrous. Only by using this water can the profound jade in the cave be extracted without being damaged. That is why our sect only opens the profound jade cave once every 1,000 years. And each time, we can only retrieve a small amount of profound jade. I see. The gray-robed monk's face lit up with understanding. Lao Yu glanced at the 10,000-year-old black jade scattered across the cave floor, and could only feel a flicker of regret. Meanwhile, after Han Li witnessed that scene of the jade falling from the leafy embankment, his mind was in turmoil. As for other matters, let's wait until we're inside the solar gold house to absorb it. As the esteemed Han Li spoke, he strode towards the red stone house. Han Li and the others had no objections, and followed him. It was only when they got closer that they discovered the entire stone house was translucent. It shimmered with a red light, and emitted a scorching hot aura, as if it were constructed from a pile of fire spirit stones. Solar gold stone. This was the first time Han Li had ever heard of this material. But the words sun, gold, and fire naturally surfaced in his mind. There must be some connection between them, right? He thought to himself, not entirely certain. But regardless, this also seemed to be a clue to finding the solar gold fire. I'll have to probe around a bit, see if I can get anything out of the person from the small ultimate palace. Upon entering the stone house, they found it was completely empty. There was nothing inside at all. However, the biting cold that had been raging outside was indeed unable to penetrate the house and get inside. Relieved, everyone retracted their protective light shields and found a suitable spot to sit down cross-legged. Just as Han Li had settled down, he heard the gray-robed monk glance around and then say with a smile, I never imagined that besides the 10,000-year-old black jade, your esteemed palace would also manage to find solar gold stone, a treasure in no way inferior to the black jade. However, from what this humble monk knows, this material is found deep within the Earth's core fire, and furthermore, only through the legendary fission of the sun gold fire can they be formed. So many crystal stones. I really don't know how your palace managed to find them. Heh, Master, I'm surprised you also know about the sun gold stones. Your knowledge of this is quite surprising. However, these are materials collected by my ancestors over generations. We descendants are merely enjoying the fruits of their labor. Now, let me first tell you fellow Taoists about the other taboos of the melodious movement. Then I will detail the breakthrough of the bottle. Neck in specific steps. Han Li Shangren gave a dry laugh. seeming unwilling to discuss the matter further, and proactively changed the subject. The monk smiled faintly, and immediately fell silent. When Hanli heard it was indeed related to the Sun Goldfire, he was first overjoyed, but after hearing the rest, he secretly grumbled to himself. But he had no choice but to brace himself, and listen to what this Grand Elder of ZG Palace had to say. Almost at the same time, in a huge pavilion in the terrestrial ZG Palace, a middle-aged beauty dressed in a white gown was sitting gracefully on a wooden chair. Before her, a man and a woman were seated onto other chairs. They were none other than Bai Yao Yi and the supervising elder, Hua Fa. Both were looking at the woman with solemn expressions. So, Grand Elder Han Li really opened a void spirit hall, and he brought 3 outsiders in with him. The beauty asked with unusual calmness. Her voice was a little hoarse, but it held an indescribable femininity, making it unforgettable to anyone who heard it. Reporting to you, Princess Grand Elder, he did indeed do so. However, he has already arranged for contingency plans. Bai Yaoyi slowly replied, HMPH. What contingency plans? It's just the same old trick as before. If the enemy proves to be too powerful, and our sect cannot handle it, we will immediately have the Jinri disciples hide in the Void Spirit Hall. We'll just have to tear open a spatial rift and lie low for a while. We were supposed to have 2 Void Spirit Halls, but now the most important one has been occupied. If something really goes wrong, the number of disciples we can protect will be reduced by a full 1/3. But the gray-haired elder spoke, sounding rather reluctant. You can't quite say that. If senior brother Han Li truly succeeds in advancing to the Deity Transformation stage, then the ferocity of this demonic horde's attack, no matter how great, should be of no concern. However, just to be safe, junior brother Yi, you should still follow the great elder's arrangements, and go make the preparations. I've heard that demonic beasts of level 8 and above have already appeared on the island, and they are hunting down and killing our patrolling disciples outside the island. The beautiful woman's fine brows knitted together, as she asked in a grim tone, That's right. Demonic beasts at the form transformation stage have indeed appeared. They seem to want to clear out our perimeter before advancing on the main palace. This has always been their method. However, there is one thing I'm rather concerned about. The gray-haired elder's expression grew solemn. Oh, junior brother Yi, please feel free to say whatever is on your mind, the beautiful woman asked, her eyes glittering. According to the intelligence we've received, it seems that this time, besides the ice phoenix from the coast being stirred into action, the upper echelons of the Myriad Demon Valley haven't just sent out that old green backvalve. There seem to be signs that old demon Siechi will also make a move this time. After a moment of hesitation, the gray-haired elder said in a tone of uncertainty, Old demon Siechi, that's impossible. The beautiful woman's nonchalant expression was instantly replaced by a grave look. Senior sister Liu, I also find it unlikely. However, our spies planted within the Myriad Demon Valley have sent back several intelligence reports, and they all indicate this old demon seems like he's really about to make a move. The gray-haired elder sighed. Old demon Siechi is from ancient times, a demonic warrior who has existed in the mortal realm. He advanced to the Deity Transformation stage countless years ago. If he really wanted to make a move against us, why would he have waited until today? But Bai Yaoyi shook her head, a grim look on her face. It's true that one could say that. But during the sealing of Kunwu Mountain last time, I heard that not only did the sacred ancestor of the ancient demon realm appear, but even the demon consort from the upper realm showed up. Could this have something to do with that? The gray-haired elder turned his hand, motioning towards Bai Yaoyi. He asked, The matter of the sacred ancestor and the demon consort is just a rumor circulating among the major sects. No one knows if it's true or false, or who released the information in the first place. Although I participated in that event back then, I was severely injured, so I had to withdraw midway. I can't tell if it's true or not. Oh, right. Fellow Taoist Han stayed until the very end. He should know some of the details. Bai Yaoyi thought for a moment with a frown, and said as much. Is that the man you invited? The beautiful woman's eyes flashed, as she suddenly asked, Yes, that's him. Bai Yaoyi nodded. Forget it. No matter what happened on Kunwu Mountain, the demon invasion won't change. Old demon Siechi would never leave Wanyao Valley in person. He'll most likely just send out one of his avatars. The beautiful woman quickly regained her composure and said coldly, Bai Yaoyi and the gray-haired elder also vaguely knew some secrets about Deity Transformation cultivators. Now, Seeing their senior sister speak with such certainty, the two of them breathed a great sigh of relief. If it's only one of the old demon's avatars, then we might actually have a chance of winning. Release all the dormant cold energy on the island. Most ordinary demonic beasts won't be able to withstand it. It's just those coastal beasts. Most of them are of an ice affinity. They aren't afraid of the effects of this restriction. The old man still had some reservations. It's alright. For the coastal beasts, we can use that item left behind years ago by the founding ancestor to deal with them. This treasure has been in our palace for tens of thousands of years. Wasn't it kept for this very day? If that's the case, we just need to be mindful of those beasts of level 8 and higher. The beautiful woman became calm once more. Upon hearing this, Bai Yaoyi and the gray-haired old man subconsciously glanced at each other. A look of realization dawned on both their faces. If the princess hadn't brought this up, we would have almost forgotten about this treasure. Indeed, with that treasure on hand, any coastal beast that sets foot on this island is as good as useless. It's just a shame this treasure seems to only be effective on the lowest tier coastal beasts. Otherwise, it would be a truly devastating weapon. The gray-haired old man chuckled wryly. Alright, even so, this swarm of beasts is coming with overwhelming force. Our chances of successfully defending are not very high. Tell the low-level disciples in the palace to hurry up. Those who can evacuate should evacuate. Those who can disperse should disperse. We only need to keep the essential personnel. We must avoid pointless casualties. Yes, princess. This time, Bai Yaoyi and the old man replied respectfully. Over the next several days, the once seemingly peaceful Little Apex Palace finally began to stir. A tense, pre-battle atmosphere spread across the island almost overnight. Not only were most of the defensive formations activated one after another, but numerous low-level disciples were also constantly evacuating from the palace, vanishing without a trace, and it's unknown where they were placed. And just as Emi Ifu and Bai Yaoyi were talking, 2 days later, inside the Black Jade Cave of the Void Spirit Hall, Sage Hanli, who was meditating, suddenly opened his tightly closed eyes. This Grand Elder of the Shaoji Palace looked at the other masters in the room who were sitting cross-legged with their eyes closed, and said slowly, "The day before yesterday, I already explained some of the key points and the essentials of the technique to all of you fellow Taoists. With the aptitude of you fellow Taoists comprehending this secret art, I imagine today's time should have been more than enough." Hearing this question, Han Li and the others had varied expressions, and they all opened their eyes one after another. This humble monk has no problem. I have already comprehended the technique thoroughly, the monk said with a smile. This old man understood it half a day ago. The old man replied proudly, Han also has no problem. Han Li said faintly, as for Bai Mingxian and the middle-aged man from Qingshan, it naturally went without saying. Since all you fellow Taoists have said so, we need not delay any longer. Let's begin immediately. This time, breaking through the bottleneck will take a few days at the least, and over a month at most. Regardless of whether we succeed, I hope we can complete this secret art in one go. To be honest, this old man is still a little worried about matters outside the hall. I hope to get out of this place as soon as possible, Sage Hanli said with a solemn expression. Hearing him say this, the others naturally had no objections. Next, Sage Hanli and the other two took out from their storage pouches some formation flags and discs that had been refined long ago. They walked out of the room and began to set up for this cave, an exceptionally mysterious formation. Although Han Li and the other two didn't need to do anything, they naturally didn't want to miss it. Any opportunity to observe the secret techniques. Nearby, Han Yan also began to move, and walked out of the room, watching coldly from the sidelines, at every move of the 3 young cultivators. Because they were all pre-refined formation tools, Adept Han Li and the others set it up with incredible speed. It was completed in just the time it takes to drink a cup of tea. The formation was centered on the pile of rubble, faintly giving off a grim and imposing aura. Within it, floating runes flickered endlessly in the air. Adept Han Li's body flickered, and he floated into midair. After sizing up the formation from all sides, his figure suddenly spun around. His 10 fingers flicked out continuously. Instantly, a dozen or so magical seals shot out. Disappearing into the formation, they transformed into a dozen wisps of clear smoke, and vanished in a flash. The entire formation began to emit a low hum. Lights of various colors flickered, and the Zhuanli cold che that originally permeated the bottom of the entire cavern seemed to be disturbed all at once. surging violently. It shot out in all directions, like cold water being splashed into a hot wok. But on the giant rock at the very center, the milky white mass of cold che remained completely still, seemingly unaffected. Very good. While it's true the more Zhuanli cold che, the better, we must also ensure the stability of the surrounding cold che. Only then can the chances of a breakthrough be higher. Adept Hanli floated above the pile of rubble, glancing around a few times. A satisfied expression finally appeared on his face. At this moment, Hanli's gaze, however, landed within the pile of rubble, upon something created by the formation's power. 5 light pillars that had suddenly appeared, each several meters tall. These pillars were shrouded in a hazy glow, and were divided into 5 colors: purple, red, white, black, and yellow. At a glance, one could tell they were formed from pure elemental power, and they happened to be perfectly encircling the giant rock, and between each pillar of light, wisps of glowing mist connected them. As they continuously flickered, they seemed to become a single entity. In an instant, the formation was complete. Hanli's eyes flickered. Without a word, a profound clear light flashed around his body. He suddenly transformed into a streak of cyan and red light, shooting towards the purple pillar. Then, after a flash of brilliance, Hanli was already standing gracefully atop the pillar of light. Elder Yu and the others were not much slower than Hanli. In the very next moment, they too landed on the other pillars. After exchanging slightly puzzled glances, they sat down cross-legged. Hanli, of course, did the same. At this moment, the spiritual power within his body, following the secret technique he had previously obtained, began to circulate slowly. The purple apex flame outside his body gradually became dazzlingly bright. Suddenly, a soft cry escaped Hanli's lips. At the same time, the hand seal he was forming changed. Instantly, beneath Hanli, a ball of purple light emerged from where he sat. It then gathered and transformed, unexpectedly forming a light lotus about 10 feet wide. This lotus was shimmering and translucent, as thin as a cicada's wing, and exceptionally beautiful. At the same time, the purple apex flame on Hanli's body. At the moment the purple lotus appeared, seemed to have been stimulated by something. It flared up in an instant. Seeing this, Hanli's brow twitched, and a hint of surprise showed on his face. In the secret technique given to him by his master, there was no mention that these formations actually had the effect of enhancing the power of the cold flame. This was truly an unexpected boon. If I could get my hands on the method for setting up this formation, it might be very useful in the future. However, Hanli also immediately noticed that, as the purple apex flame flared up, the consumption of his own spiritual power had more than doubled. It seems this method of using a formation to enhance the cold flame's power. It seems there are still some flaws, he thought to himself. He looked toward the other pillars of light. Glancing at Munkala and the King Cheng cultivator, he saw that these cultivators were just like him. A canopy of light had bloomed beneath each of them. Their shape and size were extremely similar. These few were also sitting within their canopies of light, experiencing the vast expansion of their spiritual sense. With a glint in his eyes, he glanced at the cavern wall to the side. Over there, amidst a mass of milky white cold light, the wisp of true lunar fire he had released was silently lurking. It was slowly absorbing the surrounding cold che, seemingly undetected by anyone. Fortunately, the entire spiritual void hall was under a spiritual sense restriction. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to release this wisp of sentient, true fire like this. But before Hanli could retract his gaze, the voice of Senior Hanmi echoed from the center of the hall. It seems that all of you fellow Taoist techniques have been cultivated to a certain level, enough to last for quite some time. That being the case, I can rest assured. I will now enter the profound jade cold che. Fellow Taoists, please proceed as we discussed, and activate your cold flames. After Senior Hanmi finished speaking with a solemn tone, the Qianlin ice flame around his body flickered. He then flew above the mass of milky white cold, and slowly descended. After a series of rumbling sounds, the blue flames and white mist intertwined and flashed. Then, his figure was completely submerged within the mass of cold. It was unknown what technique this senior had used to actually allow the Qianlin ice flame and the profound jade cold che to collide, yet remain in harmony with each other. The result was that Senior Hanmi's body, except for a layer of milky white light, appeared particularly eye-catching, and at that very moment, the middle-aged man from Green Mountain and Bai Mengxing both simultaneously flicked their wrists, and in each of their hands, a light blue, disc-like plate appeared. The two of them skillfully tapped a few points on the plates. Instantly, all around the formation, a five-colored light mist suddenly rose up, completely enveloping Han Li and the others within it. Then, a fierce wind began to rage outside the light. A white, hazy hurricane formed on its own outside the light, concealing everything within the mist under its howling sound. No one could see the situation inside from the outside anymore. In other parts of the cavern, the once turbulent, milky white cold energy, at the very moment the hurricane appeared, gradually returned to calm. Only that wisp of scarlet flame was still hiding in a corner, continuously devouring the surrounding cold light. Time passed, bit by bit. The hurricane in the pile of rubble did not stop for even a moment, and aside from the sound of the wind, not another sound came from within. Then, 7 or 8 days later, a large number of demon beasts finally appeared outside North Underworld Island, brazenly marching out. They split their forces into two routes, one from the inland direction, and the other from the coastal direction, launching a pincer attack. Along the way, a demonic aura filled the air, and a murderous aura soared to the heavens. The small clans and sects living near North Underworld Island were naturally thrown into a state of utter chaos. They all relocated their headquarters, fleeing far away from North Underworld Island. With such a massive disturbance, Little Jigong naturally received the news immediately. At almost the exact same time, he immediately opened the island's heavenly origin yin vein and activated the seal on the cold eye. This caused the cold energy on the island to suddenly become several times more intense than usual. The world was filled with wind and snow. The demon warriors from the inland were led by Wen Yaogu and were already prepared. With one thrust, they stabbed the one surnamed Shin, and immediately had a large number of low-level demonic beasts stationed outside the island to slowly exhaust the reserves of cold energy on the island. Then, they had dozens of level 7 and above demonic beasts form several teams to charge onto the island. As for the horde of demons coming from the coast, most of them were not afraid of the cold energy and blizzards of the North Underworld Island, and they stepped directly onto the island. The high-level demonic beasts immediately transformed into countless small streams, flying straight towards the Little Jigong. The North Underworld Island wasn't very large, but as soon as these demonic beasts entered it, they were like mud oxen entering the sea, blending into the world of ice and snow, and disappearing without a trace. The high-level cultivators of Little Jigong naturally wouldn't allow these demonic creatures to approach the ice city so easily. Aided by the formation's restrictions and the boundless cold energy, a slaughter immediately began on the island. A demonic beast with a transparent body, resembling a fragile jellyfish, braved the vast white blizzard, advancing through a snowy field, appearing and disappearing. This type of demonic beast, called the Hanmai, is born from the cold energy of heaven and earth. Although they are only level 5 or level 6 demonic beasts, when faced with the swirling snow and the bitter cold that could turn breath to ice, they showed not the slightest fear. On the contrary, each one was full of vigor, as free and comfortable as a fish in water. Suddenly, the leading level 6 Hanmai's body froze. The several pairs of red eyes growing on its sides looked, with some suspicion, to one side, towards a spot where the blizzard was unusually dense. The other few level 5 Hanmai also froze and looked over in the same direction. The sound of something tearing through the air suddenly rang out. Then, several red threads shot out from the blizzard. They were incredibly fast. In a flash, they pierced through the bodies of several Hanmai, actually slicing their internal demonic cores in half. With a few thuds, these ice maidens shattered like blocks of ice, scattering and falling all over the ground. Just then, a figure stirred in the snowstorm. A young female cultivator, a Little Jigong, wearing a white cloak, slowly walked out. Although her face could not be seen clearly, her cold gaze swept over the ice fragments before her. Without saying a word, her figure flickered, and a moment later, she vanished into the blizzard. 100 li away, in another place, a minotaur-like demon beast, Tujongtal, was surprisingly walking alone on its 2 feet, across a lake of unusually clear ice. It had a pair of pitch-black curved horns, and its entire fur shimmered with a blue light. But on its shoulder, it carried a giant blade, half the size of a wagon wheel. It advanced with its rear swaying from side to side, appearing somewhat clumsy and ridiculous. However, if any human cultivator were to see this demon beast, they would absolutely not be laughing, because this was, in fact, a level 7 demon beast on the verge of taking human form, and because the aerial restriction on North Ming Island was fully active. Only demon beasts of level 8 or higher could ignore this restriction and continue to fly ahead. Other demon beasts that needed to reach their destination, just like the little Jigong, could only advance slowly on foot. Therefore, this demon beast, which was clearly not skilled in movement techniques, could only trudge forward one step at a time. Suddenly, the massive blade on the demon beast's shoulder moved. It was as if something flashed and then vanished from sight. Immediately, a loud boom echoed from the side. Then, a blood-curdling scream came from beneath the lake. A gash, several inches wide, strangely appeared on the ice surface. A sharp blade marked Zhang Long. It looked unfathomably deep. At this moment, the Minotaur beast slowly glanced over at the gash. In just a blink of an eye, a large gush of bloody water surged out from within it. The upper half of a corpse then floated to the surface. Looking at it, from the style of its clothing, it was a male disciple of the little Jigong. It seems this person was originally using a water escape technique to hide beneath the ice, preparing to ambush a passing demonic beast. But in the end, he was actually seen through by this seemingly foolish level 7 demonic beast in a single glance, and then killed with a single strike. A cruel glint flashed in the demonic beast's eyes. With a single grab at the empty air, it pulled the severed half of the corpse into its hand. Then, with a wide grin, it actually began to gnaw directly on the corpse. After just a moment, the entire half of the corpse had entered the beast's stomach. Only then did the beast pat its stomach in satisfaction and continue forward, carrying the giant blade. Similar scenes of slaughter were happening all across the northern Dark Island. Either these low-level demonic beasts were ambushed and killed, or the Foundation establishment cultivators were, in turn, slain and devoured by the demonic beasts. However, the ones fighting on both sides were all low-level demonic beasts and cultivators below the core formation stage. The Nascent Soul cultivators and level 8 demonic beasts, however, seemed to turn a blind eye to these skirmishes. One side simply holed up in the ice city, refusing to come out. The other side flew swiftly overhead through the snowstorm, completely ignoring anything happening below. It wasn't that these high-level demonic beasts didn't want to exterminate these low-level cultivators. It was because of the flight restriction deep within the area. Searching in the vast snowstorm for those Foundation establishment cultivators skilled in various escape arts was truly not an easy task. Some Foundation establishment cultivators also carried special magical artifacts that could conceal their aura, making them even more difficult to find. And even if they occasionally killed a few cultivators, it would have no effect on the overall situation at all. It was better to save their spiritual power for the real battle that was about to come. After all, when it came to a life-or-death struggle, every bit of spiritual power was extremely precious. Just as Zhang Yao was gradually approaching the ice city, in a certain hall within a secret path in the cold forest, that beautiful woman with the surname Liu was sitting upright on a jade chair in the hall. Seated before him were two rows of elders from the Ziji Gong of the Yuan Yin Assembly, who were quietly listening to a palace disciple dressed in white robes report on the situation of the disciples sent to intercept the demon beasts. Of the 100 high-level disciples sent out this time, 37 of their life tablets have already been extinguished. According to confirmed reports, a total of 128 demon beasts of various levels have been killed. Most of them are coastal demon beasts. The second team of disciples has now been dispatched. It is estimated that in about 2 hours, they should rendezvous with the first group and make contact with those demon beasts. That disciple respectfully reported, 37 disciples have fallen. It seems the time is about right. They should all be within 100,000 li of Ice City. Notify Elder Yi to begin using the shock bell in 2 hours. This time, we must inflict heavy losses on the coastal, high-level demon beasts. Otherwise, when they attack our ZG Gong, even this cannon fodder will be a huge problem. Hearing this, the Venerable Master ordered without so much as a blink. Yes, Palace Master. Upon hearing this, an elder with white hair and a youthful face immediately flicked his hand. A voice-transmitting talisman shot out from his hand, circled once, and flew out of the hall. Junior Brother Ding, activate all the quiescent grand arrays. I estimate that once this treasure is used, seeing their kin slaughtered, that group of high-level demon beasts from the coast will likely go berserk. The Venerable Master calmly commanded again. Yes, another elder stood up and acknowledged the order, then transformed into a streak of light and left. Also, notify the disciples who have left the city to be careful. That sequeling bell can only be sustained for the time it takes an incense stick to burn, at most, and after a single use, it will lie dormant for over 100 years. Once the time is up, all disciples are to immediately return to the city. Then, immediately shut down all the secret teleportation arrays, model, lest I be used by the 15th to invade my palace. Understood. After each command was issued one after another, shadows flickered continuously, one by one. The Nascent Soul level cultivators accepted their orders and departed. At almost the exact same time, hundreds of miles away from Binchang, a large group of high-level demonic beasts had all arrived at the same location. They descended from their streaks of light, landing on a small iceberg. Ahead of us is the area covered by the Grand Palace guarding formation of Little Rooster Town. Looking at that vast expanse of white, cold mist, all the demonic beasts at the humanoid transformation level had solemn expressions on their faces. This group of demonic beasts was clearly divided into two factions. One faction had only about 10 members, led by a tall old man and a short child. The other group had more than 20 beasts, and they gathered around a slender woman dressed in silver. But strangely, the demonic beasts in the smaller group were all neatly dressed. Aside from their somewhat peculiar appearances, their mannerisms and movements were no different from human cultivators, and when they looked at the other group of demonic beasts, their gazes held a hint of disdain. The other, more numerous group of demonic beasts, however, all looked fierce and savage. Most of them wore simple clothes made of fur and hides. Some were even bare-chested. They also carried weapons like sabers and swords, either slung across their backs or held directly in their hands. As for their waists, although they had storage pouches made from animal hides, for some reason, they didn't put these weapons inside them. This group of demonic beasts, every single one of them emanated a ferocious aura. The way they looked at the other group of beasts was not friendly at all. These two factions of demonic beasts stood on the peak of the iceberg, with a clear line dividing them. The atmosphere was tense, as if they were fire and water, completely incompatible. However, if some unknowing cultivator were to pass by here by chance, and see these two groups of demonic beasts, they would probably be so scared they'd immediately flee for their lives, because this group of demonic beasts, all of them are shape-shifting demon beasts of level 8 or higher, and that old man, the young child, and the woman in silver robes, are even more powerful, level 10 demon beasts. With such incredible power, I'm afraid that even when compared to the 10 great righteous and demonic sects, and most of their individual factions, they could easily overpower them. What's more, high-level demon beasts are already inherently a bit stronger than cultivators of the same level. Among the demon beasts, the old man in the dark robe had a square, imposing face. His eyes were bright and full of spirit. His full head of gray hair faintly shimmered with a pale light, giving him an imposing aura without even being angry. And the boy, who looked to be only 6 or 7 years old, had delicate and refined features, like a jade child from the heavens. But oddly, his eyes were faintly red, as if a layer of blood-red light was cast upon his pupils. Yet, a faint, serene smile always played on his lips. As for the silver-robed woman on the other side, she had an elegant and graceful bearing. Her skin was like snow. She was a peerless beauty of heavenly grace. However, this seemingly delicate beauty, with just a slight shift of her gaze, as she looked around, caused all the unusually ferocious, high-level demon beasts surrounding her to quickly lower their heads, not daring to look her in the eye. Every single one of them was trembling with fear.